Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a filet crochet bandeau top with a matching skinny scarf. This piece is adorable and surprisingly very easy to make. This is going to be such a fun top to style this summer. The lace-up backing is cute and dainty and also helps keep this project as beginner friendly as possible. But you can easily adjust the sizing to accommodate the amount of coverage that you're comfortable with if you don't love open back tops. Now for materials, you're going to need roughly 93 grams of a lace weight yarn if you wear a size small. You will need more if you wear anything larger than that, keep that in mind. You'll also want to have around a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook. If you have something a little smaller, that is fine. The filet grid that goes with this top can be found on my Etsy. You'll also want a darning needle, pair of scissors, at least 8 stitch markers, and a rocking playlist. This tutorial won't have any background music, so you can play your favorite songs as you work on this project. I don't know about you, but I love to crochet with a good song or movie in the background. Don't worry, you'll hear my lovely voice, just no background music. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Now let's go ahead and get on with the tutorial. So all of our work is going to be exactly the same for the whole first half of this project. So you're going to start off with a chain of 122. Once you have made your chain of 122, you're going to count 5 chains away from your hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in this 5th chain, we're going to work 1 double crochet. So yarn over, go into that 5th chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, then yarn over again, pull through the remaining 2 loops. After that, we are going to go ahead and we're going to go straight into our filet chart. We now have one of our first mesh boxes done, and I'm going to be working this grid from bottom up, going from right to left. So if I look at my grid here and I count, I have 20 open boxes before I get to my very first filled box. So I have to do 19 more of these mesh boxes. And you just do that by chaining 1, skipping the next chain, and putting 1 double crochet in the chain after that. So that's my second mesh box of 20 done, and I'll just keep repeating until I have 20 of these boxes done. So chain 1, skip the next chain, and then double crochet into the chain after that. And just keep repeating this until you have all 20 of your mesh boxes. I'll meet back with you guys at that point. So I just finished my 20th mesh box, and now as we move into the next, which is going to be our very first filled box from looking at our chart, instead of chaining 1, you're going to yarn over, go into the very next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Then you're going to yarn over again, go back into that same chain and yarn over, pull up a loop. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You should be left with 3 loops on your hook. Then from there you can yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And I do explain in my how to fillet crochet tutorial, kind of like just a general video, how doing 2 double crochets put together as 1 is going to lead to you having more filled boxes, which will make your grid, or like make the pattern in your grid, show up a bit better. So that's how we make our filled box. And then right after that, you go ahead and put 1 double crochet into the chain right after that to close or put the second wall up in between your closed box. Then from there, looking at our chart, I counted them up and we have 18 open boxes before we get to our next filled box. So after you've done that 1 double crochet after the filled box, you're going to go ahead and chain 1, skip the next chain, and then work 1 double crochet into the chain after that. That's the first box of 18 done. So keep repeating this until you have 18 boxes total. All right, I have done 18 of my mesh boxes. Now looking back at the chart, the very next box we have is filled. So once again, to go over how you do a filled box, instead of chaining 1, we're going to go ahead and start
working our first double crochet into the very next chain. So yarn over, reach into the chain, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 of your loops, then yarn over again, go back into that same chain and pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You should have 3 loops left on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops. After that, put 1 double crochet into the very next chain to make the other side of your wall that encases your filled box. And then looking at our chart, after that filled box, all of the remaining boxes are open. So we're just going to chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, work 1 double crochet into the chain after that until we get to the end of our row. And we should have the total number of boxes in our work as we do in this chart. So I'll catch up with you guys once I finish this. Okay, so I made it to the end of my row. I counted how many mesh boxes I had since I finished my last filled box here, and I had 20. And then I went back and I just double checked to make sure it matched the ending of my chart, which I also had 20, so I know I'm all good to go. So what I like to do is take a pen and just go ahead and put a line through that whole first row so I don't mistakenly look at it and think that that's a row that I have still to do. So I just worked my way from right to left. Now we're going to go into row 2, working our way from left to right. So I'm just going to put a little arrow facing this way, so I will always have a little marker of where I'm where I've left off at and which direction I'm going in case I ever decide to take breaks in between my project. But to start off row 2, as well as every other row that you will do when completing your chart, you're going to start off with a chain of 4. So the chain of 3 is your very first wall or your very first double crochet, and the chain 1 is the mesh chain 1 space that will create the open box. You're going to do this for all of your rows to start off, except for when you get to this one row, row 37. Instead of starting off with a chain of 4, you'll just start off with a chain of 3 and then double crochet into the very next stitch. But by the time you get this far up into the pattern, this will not be something that confuses you. But anywho, so starting off from row 2, working our way from left to right, we're going to go ahead and do 19 mesh boxes, and then we have 2 filled boxes right after that. So I'll meet you guys at that point. So after you chain your 4, you're going to turn your work, skip the chain 1 space and double crochet into the stitch after that, which sits right above the previous row's double crochet, and do that 19 times in total. Okay, I've completed 19 of my open mesh boxes, and now the very next the very next box I'm going to do is going to be filled, and that's going to be before we get to this other filled box here. So in this chain 1 space, you're going to yarn over, go ahead into the chain 1 space and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, then yarn over again, go back into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You should have 3 loops left on your hook. Then you'll yarn over and pull through the remaining 3. Then after that, you go ahead and put 1 double crochet into the very next stitch after that. And then we are going to do our next filled box, which sits right above the previous row's filled box. So into the next stitch, you're going to go ahead and start your first double crochet, but you don't finish it. You just yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and then once again you'll go back into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through all 3, and then right after that put 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. And now we have 2 of our filled boxes done. Then we look at our chart and we have 18 mesh boxes before we get to our next filled box. So from there, once again, chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, 1 double crochet into the stitch after that, and repeat that 18 times. I finished my 18 double crochets, and the next 2 boxes I have in my chart are both filled. So going into the very next stitch, we are going to do a filled box. So yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, go back into the same stitch, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, then yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and then work 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. And that completes your first filled box. Then we're making our next filled box, which is going to go over this previous row's open box. So we're going to be working our double crochets into the chain 1, or chain 1 space. So yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, go back into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, then yarn over, pull through the remaining 3 loops, then go ahead and put 1 double crochet into the very next stitch after that to fully close off that second mesh box. Then after that, looking back at my chart, I have 4 open boxes before I get to my next set of filled boxes. So now you're going to chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, work 1 double crochet into the stitch that follows 4 times. My 4 boxes are done, and I see after that I have 3 closed boxes. So we're going to repeat the same thing we've been doing for all of our closed boxes so far. You're going to just start off with yarning over, going into that chain 1 space and pulling up a loop, then yarning over, pulling through 2 loops, yarn over again, go back into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, then yarn over, pull through the remaining 3 loops, then go ahead and put 1 double crochet into the very next stitch, and repeat that 2 more times so you'll have 3 of these mesh boxes filled. Now that my 3 boxes are done, all of my remaining boxes are open. So I'm just going to chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and put 1 double crochet into the stitch that follows until I reach the end of row 2. Okay, just to make sure that there's no confusion, when you're getting ready to work your last double crochet stitch, so after you do your chain 1, you're going to look at your stitches, you're going to skip the very first chain, and in the second one right after that is where you're going to work your last double crochet to end off your row. Then row 2 is done. You can chain 4. The first 3 chains count as your first double crochet. The chain 1 is the chain 1 space, and you'll just keep working your pattern or your grid back and forth until you've made it all the way up to your 40th row. So I'll keep doing this, and I'll meet back with you guys once I have finished the chart and show you how and where we go from there. Okay, so I finished working up just the fillet chart. You can go ahead and hold this piece up to your body and see about how much more of the fillet you need on your sides, or like working outward. If you're satisfied with the amount of coverage this piece gives you as is, skip to the timestamp on the screen. If not, you're going to go ahead and continue on with the next step. So from where we left off at, we're just going to turn our work to the side, right where our work is, or right where our yarn is connected. We're going to chain 4. And then we're going to continue just doing a regular mesh with no pattern, just down both sides until we reach the length that we need, that we can wrap this around our body. Okay, so now I'm going to be working off of my fillet chart. I just finished that and I turned my work on the side. I did not cut off my yarn. I'm just going to keep working from here. So you're going to start off with a chain of 4, like we have been. And now just for this first row only, will we have to work into the sides of these double crochets. So when we were looking at our work right side up, you see we had like lovely little stitches from the previous row's double crochet that we could work into. Now the only thing that changes on the first row of your sides is that instead of working into an actual stitch, you're working into the side of your double crochet stitch. So yarn over, go into the hole where your 2 double crochets from your 2 rows connect, and work your double crochet right into that center point. And that is going to be the very first double crochet of our rows now along the side of our piece. So same as usual, you're going to chain 1, skip the double crochet this time, and then find that center point between the next 2 double crochets and work your next double crochet into there. And you're going to repeat that all the way down the length of your work. Now, just remember, same thing applies for corners as it did for when we were working on the actual grid. You're going to go ahead and double crochet into the 3rd chain of your chain 4 to make sure that you keep your corners straight.
Go ahead and work up your additional rows on each side to make sure that this top covers your entire chest, and I will meet back with you guys after you're done with this step.
Okay, so in this very first box along the top edge of my top, I'm going to put 1 single crochet into that chain 1 space. Then I'm going to skip the next chain 1 space, and in the following we are going to put 7 double crochets. So yarn over, skip this box all together, go to the next and do 7 double crochets. Once your 7 double crochets are done, you're going to skip the next mesh box, and then in the following, you're going to put 1 single crochet. And that is going to be what your scalloped or lettuce hem will look like. So then after you do that single crochet, you're going to skip the next box, and then in the following, do 7 double crochets. My 7 double crochets are done. I'm going to skip the next box and then put 1 single crochet in the box that follows. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way down the length of the top of my top as well as the bottom edge of my top. So one more time, we just did a single crochet, so skip the next box. In the box that follows, do 7 double crochets. Then after your 7 double crochets, skip the next box and then put a single crochet in the box that follows that. And go ahead and repeat that along the length of the top half of your top. Then you can cut your yarn, reattach it onto the bottom, and repeat the same steps along the bottom half of your top. I'll meet back with you guys once I have done that.
Instead of cutting your yarn at the end, you can just turn your work to its side and do 2 single crochets into each side of your double crochet rows to get down to the bottom corner, or it would be 1 single crochet into every stitch as well as the chain 1 space if you had to add extra length to the sides of your top. But this way you'll have less ends to weave in later.
So I just made my way around my project. I did my scalloped edge on the top and bottom and then along the sides to give me some clean ends. I went ahead and just did single crochets into either side. I ended off in this corner and I ran out of yarn. So I just slip stitched into the very first single crochet I did in this corner here. And now I'm just chaining 1 and pulling through. Okay, now I'm going to turn my work on its side and we are going to be working on creating the little loops that we'll be able to weave our back tie through. Now, before we get to crocheting our little side straps, what you're first going to want to do is take your stitch markers and you're going to want to place them however far apart you want your little tie loops to be. So I'm gonna play around with this for a minute and just figure out my spacing, and then I'll come back with you guys and show you what yours should somewhat look like. Okay, so I placed my stitch markers where I think I want my ties to be. I just did on one side, but that's okay because I can count it out on the other side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reattach my yarn into the corner of this place right here where I want to start my first strap, or my first little tie. I don't really know what to call these, but where we're gonna lace our ties through. Okay, and now that my yarn is connected into this corner, I'm going to make my straps 2 of these mesh boxes wide. So I'm gonna start off with a chain of 3, and I'm gonna put 1 single crochet into every stitch between these 2 stitch marker, or between these 2 mesh boxes here. So you know what, let me move my first stitch marker. Okay, so that is what my work looks like now. And this is how wide my little strap loop containment thing is going to be. So then I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to go ahead and put 1, not single crochet, I'm going to put 1 double crochet along every stitch, including the top of this chain 3. That is what your work should look like now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to cut off the tail. It doesn't have to be super long, but you don't want it to be too short either, because we're going to close up and make a loop out of this. So you can see how much yarn I'm leaving, and I'm going to cut right there. Pull that tail end through. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this work over so that my 2 rows of double crochets lie flat, one on top of the other. And I'm going to take that tail end, that long tail end that I just cut, and I'm going to weave my darning needle through it. So I have my tail end attached to my darning needle. I folded my 2 rows that I just did over. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the top of the V. Oops, let me do it this way. I'm going to go into the top of the V stitch on one end of my work. And then I'm also going to reach through and just pick up a little stitch from the base of my work. Trying to make this easy for you guys to see. And then I'll pull and repeat. So then go into the next V stitch on one end, and then pick up a stitch on the other end. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a little loop. It's like a very skinny loop that we'll be able to thread our back tie through. So I'm just going to keep repeating this all the way down the length of my double crochets that I did here. Okay, I did it all the way through, and as you can see, let me grab my hook. I now have a little double crochet tunnel that I'll be able to use to weave my strap through. So once that's done, you can go ahead and just take the excess yarn on your hook or on your tapestry or darning needle and just weave it in back and forth along the side of your work here. It just fell off, so I'll do that later. But you can just weave in that end a little bit and then cut it, so that way we're taking care of some of our extra loose ends as we go along. But now we have one of our little straps done, and I'm going to repeat that for me 3 more times on this side, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side of my top. Oh, I don't think I mentioned how far apart I did these. So I did mine 10 mesh boxes apart. So starting in the first corner, I had 1, and then I counted 10 down, and then I put my next stitch marker, and then counted 10 boxes down, next stitch marker, and then counted down 10 more again, and put my last stitch marker. So that's how I figured out how far apart I wanted my little strap things to be apart, but you can do whatever you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat this step for my 3 remaining places here, and then I'll catch back up with you guys once I've done that on both sides. Now, after you finish making the loops that you're going to weave your back tie through, you're going to chain a really long chain that you are going to use as the tie to secure your back. So go ahead and take your yarn, and for however long you want your back ties to be, just go ahead and make one really long chain, and then I'll show you guys what we do from there. Now with our loops and our ties done, all we have left to do is weave our little lace up back tie through our loops. So I'm using this, I actually don't know what this tool is called, but I'm using this tool to help me weave through. You can use a safety pin or a bobby pin to do this part, but all you're gonna do is you're going to slip your hook or whatever it is you're using to feed through your strap, and you're gonna take one end and you're just gonna hook it on to your work and through the little loop that we created. Then we're going to move to the other side of our top. We're going to skip the very first loop because that's going to go to the other side of our strap, which I'm going to sit out of the way. And we're going to move down to the next one right below it. Once again, I'm going to feed my little, whatever this tool is called, through it. Grab the strap from the other side, hook it on there, and pull through. And I'm just going to continue this crisscross back and forth until I have made it all the way down to the last one of these little loops, and then I'll repeat the same thing, looping through the other side of my top. Okay, so if you were only interested in making the top, then you're officially done the project. Congratulations. But if you were interested in making the scarf as well, you're going to take your yarn again and you're going to make a chain of 15. Once you have your chain of 15, you're going to work your first double crochet into the 4th chain from your hook. So count over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that 4th chain, we do our first double crochet. I said that kind of weird, but in that 4th chain, you do your first double crochet. Then you're going to do 1 double crochet into every remaining chain in your row. Now I'm at the end of my row, and going into row 2, you're going to start off by making a chain of 3, and this is your first double crochet of row 2. You're going to skip the very first stitch of this row because that belongs to this chain 3. And in the 2nd stitch, you're going to do your next double crochet, and you're just going to double crochet all the way along the length of this row. I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I'm at the end of my row. I just did my last double crochet into the last stitch, but also make sure that you don't forget to do 1 double crochet into the top of your chain 3. Row 2 is done, and now to go into row 3, you're just going to chain 3, turn your work, and repeat everything that you did in row 2. And you are going to work up however many rows you want your scarf to be lengthwise. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth, and I will meet you guys once I have the full length of my scarf. Okay, so I finished my scarf and it is 44 inches long. You can do yours longer, you can do it shorter, whatever you prefer. But I'm just gonna weave in my ends and then I'll show you guys the finished project.
This is what your completed set should look like. Please feel free to sew a nude, white, or even a light gray lining to the back side for more coverage, but I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and stay tuned for more filet crochet tutorials. Bye guys!